Sta nel cuore da una
Hello to everyone, my family. How is everyone doing? Good? Yes? I know you have all been so patient because you have been listening to a lot of information, no? So, today I'm going to talk about the return of light language and communication with our star families. Before I begin, I wanted to talk about a dream I had where I was talking with a star being, an extraterrestrial. And they were saying, when you follow your resonance, you create the conditions for others to follow theirs. When you do not, you deprive yourself and others of the opportunity and synchronicity. So, in a real sense, Ellie and her partner have followed their resonance, and they've created this Congress here. And in doing so, they've given us the opportunity to follow our own resonance. If they did not follow their excitement, all of us would not be here. So I really want to thank Ellie and Robin from my heart, because, our life, it's not really our own. It does not belong to us. Our life belongs to each other. We must realize that the choices we make can have very subtle and very dramatic effects on everyone around us. And I thought this was a great example of two people following what's most joyful and resonant with them and creating this beautiful conference with so many connections and meeting with like-minded people. And also I would like to thank all the speakers who presented in the last few days, and the ones who came before them, because they have made it possible for me to share my presentation. Because I will be honest, some of what I am sharing, some people might think it's a little bit crazy or a little bit out there, But because all these people in the ufology arena, they have come before me and made it much easier for me to be able to share with you from my heart. Also, I wanted to say, this is my first time speaking at a conference. I have given workshops before and given talks, but it's my first time speaking, so it's really an honor for me. I thought it would be good for me to introduce a little bit about myself, because, I guess I'm the new kid on the block, right? I was actually born in 1983, contrary to what some people think, because a lot of people think I'm younger than what I am. I'm young at heart. You could say that I am an ET ambassador, a channel, a transformational coach, a medicine woman, or a shaman. There's many different terms, whichever term resonates with you. I used to live in China, where I studied Qigong, healing, and human potential. In the Western country, human potential is known as paranormal ability. But I can tell you, there is nothing paranormal about it. It's super normal, actually. But as a collective, we have forgotten what is our true nature, that we are beyond this physical form, right? So you can actually visit this site, www.daoheart.com. The Big Harmonious Family is what they are called, and I studied in China for half a year. It was very intensive. We were living in the countryside. It was so beautiful in an area called Wudang. Every day we would wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning, and we would meditate for 2 hours, standing up even before we had breakfast. On my first day, I actually collapsed onto the floor because I'm very sensitive to energy. So that was quite an entrance that I made on one of my first days at the Qigong Center. Qi means life force energy, and Gong means cultivating that life force energy that we all have inside of us. I'm very fortunate because I grew up with Eastern philosophies. So I grew up with Eastern philosophies, but I also grew up in the UK, which is a modern country. And in a real sense, I got the best of both worlds, both Eastern and both Western, both right-brained and both left-brained. And is anyone here a lucid dreamer or an astral projector? I cannot see, it's a little bit bright. We got one hand, two, a few hands there. It's funny because in that picture, I must be about 4 years old, and I'm pulling my finger. And if you are familiar with lucid dreaming, what you do is you do a reality check. You ask yourself in the waking life, am I dreaming or awake right now? And you pull your finger and you say, finger stretch now, or finger disappear. The idea is you say it enough times that you will start saying it in your dreams. And I just think it's funny that when I was 4 years old, it looks like that's what I was doing. So my name is Honovi Strongdeer, and Honovi literally means strong deer. So my name is Strongdeer, Strongdeer. It is from the Native American Hopi tribe, and it was given to me by a guide whilst meditating. But I'm actually not Native American, not in this lifetime at least. My family is from India. And the Indian culture provided a platform for me to get very acquainted with spiritual understandings and have more acceptance with some of the unusual experiences that I'm going to share with you today. The deer represents intuition and, more importantly, strength through vulnerability. As a society, we have really hardened our hearts to each other. These new frequencies that are returning are really encouraging everyone to really open their heart and not to be afraid to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is an expression of the heart, and that is what is returning to our planet's heart consciousness. During December 2010, I received what would be considered a Kundalini activation by my team of guides, which was pretty intense. I thought I was dying or something at the time. I did not know what was happening to me, and I was crying, and it was, yes, very intense for me. But because I had a background, because my parents were quite spiritual, you know, when I was a young girl, we would speak about reincarnation, you know. So a lot of our spiritual journey depends on the conditioning that we have received as children. in many modern cultures, they might not talk about things like reincarnation and, all that kind of stuff. Because my family was from India, I had a very vivid imagination. I don't know how many people... Is anyone here been to India? Yeah? Okay, awesome. In India, there's all these stories about Hindu gods who are clearly... They're referred to in some instances as gods from the sky. So they clearly are star origin. And so as a result of being exposed to certain ideas in the Indian culture, it really opened my heart and my mind and helped me to accept some of, what was going to come later on. People often ask me, where are you from? And they always think I'm from Peru, which is where I'm living at the moment. And I find it difficult to answer because, I feel like I'm a citizen of the world, really. I'm sure some of you feel like that too. It's funny because some star seeds, people who have a connection with star beings or extraterrestrials, they say things like, I ask them, where are you from? And they're like, I'm from Arcturus, or I'm from Pleiades. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're from Earth. And so am I, I don't say to people that I'm from another planet, although some people do think I am from another planet. I am a human. This is my human incarnation. So it seems like there's a lot of shame actually around being human for a lot of people, especially people who are star seeds. And so it's important to make peace with your human incarnation and know that you are multidimensional and you exist on multiple planes of reality simultaneously. And the only thing that separates those different planes is frequency and vibration. So you are a human who is having a human experience and who might have a connection with star beings. That's not to say that there are not star beings living amongst us and all that kind of thing. But for the majority of people, they are human, rest assured. And it's interesting, it's fascinating for me because each of us is specifically choosing which part of Gaia, which race we will incarnate into, which nation will help us realize our purpose and our life lessons. And it's also important to realize that guides, I'm going to speak about guides a lot in this presentation because they were the ones who initiated certain conditions for me to have particular experiences. It's important to know that your guides are actually aspects of yourself. And when you are listening to the presentation, I encourage you to go beyond what information you have received before and to listen with a beginner's mind, an open mind. The mind that says that it knows creates limitation. But the mind that says, oh, I don't know, and maybe I want to learn about that. You open your heart, you let new information come through. What I'm going to present will affect you each in different ways. Take what resonates for you and leave behind what does not resonate. So another thing I wanted to mention as well is that did anyone feel like this growing up? You got any hands? Like, did anyone feel like an outsider, like an alien from another planet? What am I doing here? Yes, we are all in good company. Me too. This is really fascinating. It's actually an advert by UNICEF. you can actually type it into YouTube, UNICEF advert ET integration video. It's an example of soft disclosure that is occurring on our planet right now. So when I was young, I was always feeling like the weirdo, you know, the outsider, different. I was always speaking to plants and cats and everything else that was not human. And I would think to myself, what is this crazy planet called Earth? Everything seems back to front. It makes no sense to me, you know? And I felt like I was waiting for some UFO to come and collect me and take me home or something like that. As a child, I was very sensitive, very loving, very empathic, and I was often depressed. I was born in the UK and I moved to India when I was a young girl. And then I moved back to the UK. And the culture in the UK was a bit of a shock to my system because it's very different from Indian culture. So I really withdrew into myself because I was told that I was too sensitive. And I felt like I was never good enough, you know. And also when I was young, I actually went through domestic violence, both as a child and an adult, with a family member. This family member was acting from a very hurt place, and we all know that hurt people will hurt people, right? And so when I was growing up, it was very frightening for me. There was a lot of drama happening in the house, and sometimes I would hide in cupboards to get away from my abuser because they would go into, you know, this really crazy rage. And because of my nature, I did not want to retaliate. And also there was a 10-year age gap too. I was very young, like maybe it began when I was 6 or 7. So as a result of these experiences early on, I began to hide, you know. The world felt like it was unsafe for me. And I began to go more inside myself. And I started to get obsessed with stars, actually. I was obsessed with looking at stars. And, you know, I would look at the stars for hours and be asking myself, is anyone actually out there, you know? And I always knew inside my heart that there was much more to what we were being told in our physical world. And because I was heavily influenced from Indian and Asian culture, so Sikhism, this is what my family is, they are Sikh. My religion is the religion of the heart. I don't have a religion that is, you know, recognized worldwide or anything like that. So because I had influences from Sikhism, Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, which are very interconnected, a lot of the time they talk about reincarnation and karma and the importance of compassion. So it made it easier for me to connect to the stars and something bigger than what was around me. On the downside, there was a lot of dogma within the culture that really alienated me, and it made me want to run away from religion and spiritual stuff, you know. Especially in Indian culture, where the roles of women and men are so polarized. So it was interesting. It's interesting to note that just because you are coming from a particular tradition, lineage, culture, sometimes we have a idealized projection of that culture, but it's knowing that there's always a plus side and a minus side, and we don't always see that. I was very fortunate because my parents are very spiritually orientated. My mother is a very wise woman. And at night, when I would look up at the stars, my heart would ache with an almost unbearable longing. These stars would shine in the night sky against the darkness. And so many questions would come into my heart. And in that seeking, I began to discover I am that which I seek. So fast forwarding a little bit to where I'm living now, in wonderful Peru. Do we have anyone here from Peru? No? Okay. Maybe we have Sixto, but he's not here now. So I was told that my time in the UK was drawing to an end and that I was being encouraged to relocate to Peru. I was told this by these star beings. And many synchronicities began to occur, which were all pointing to me relocating to South America. Just to let you know, just to reinstate that these star beings, they first connected with me in 2010. As a child, I don't have recollections as such of having connection with them, but it could also be that I was going through a lot of trauma, and maybe it might have affected my ability to perceive their presence. So they contacted me in 2010, and the contact accelerated just last year in 2016. And in 2016 is when they told me, you need to go to Peru. And I was like, what? I'm not doing that. I want to stay here. But there was too many unusual things that were all pointing for me to leave. So as I was saying earlier, I now actually co-facilitate ayahuasca ceremonies. Has anyone here drank the medicine? Have a few hands here. Wonderful, beautiful, great. So ayahuasca is a medicinal brew from the Amazon. It can help people to find purpose and a vision for their life and healing. It can also scare the crap out of you too. It can do many things. It's a wonderful tool, wonderful tool. These beings told me that I had worked as a medicine woman in many lifetimes before, and that I was to embrace this path once again. But, I was having so much resistance to that, especially because in the Indian culture, or at least in the Sikh culture, they don't like it when you are taking intoxicants. They see it as something bad. So I actually became what we might call a spiritual snob, I was looking down on anyone that was doing ayahuasca. I was like, why do you need to do that? I can just meditate, Sometimes we have to go through this process. Our consciousness has to mature. At that time, I was being immature and very judgmental in my thinking. So people are reporting when they're doing ayahuasca, finding their purpose and healing with the medicine. And I co-facilitate ceremonies with different people, with friends who are also medicine men and women. The word shaman has become a very loaded word in recent years. I personally don't prefer to use it. I just prefer medicine woman. Really, we are all being called to be shamans of our own lives, Because the shaman is bridging the invisible with the visible. And this is what each of us is being called to do, with respect for the plant teachers. The plants are very wise. Sometimes it is a human tendency to think that we are somehow better than the plant brother and sister. But we really must question, what is intelligence? We seem to think that we are the most intelligent creature on our planet, no? But is it intelligent, I ask you, to be working against Gaia, our mother? Is that really intelligent? And when we look at the plant brother and sister, the animal brother and sister, they are working in harmony. They know that there is a pattern, a symbiosis, a rhythm, and it's the human that has forgotten. So we can learn a lot from the animal, the rock, the plant kingdom. Do not be so quick to think that we are above them. So, what is the language of light? Light language is an ancient, non-linear, multi-dimensional form of communication. It is the language of the soul, and it is emitted through heart consciousness. I encourage you all to begin to look at your heart in a different way, as if it has its own brain, as if it has its own memory. It communicates and connects through light, this light language, which takes form as frequency and vibration, and words are expressed as resonance and sound. On the right-hand side is a picture of one of the first light language visual channelings that I did. As the presentation continues, you will see how the light language has evolved. Light language bypasses the intellectual and analytical mind that is so celebrated in our modern culture. It is given too much elevation, really. You know, I don't want you to misunderstand me. I love science. I love maths. I love structure. There is so much structure in nature. It is very useful. But the intellect was not designed to dominate our society. And that is what has happened. When the intellect dominates, it creates a kind of insanity, really. The intellect is meant to work with the heart. The heart is meant to dominate, actually. But even the heart, it needs the intellect, because you can also go the opposite way. You can be too much in your heart, not creating boundaries with people, not honoring yourself. So really, we need both of these aspects to come together. I believe they are yearning, longing to be unified and come together. And I feel that is the age in which we are entering, where science and spirituality will come together in partnership. It can also be known as a star, galactic, angelic, cosmic language, or even speaking in tongues. Some people might have heard people speaking in tongues in the Catholic religion or some other religion, and it might have really put them off. But light language is non-denominational, which means that it does not belong to any belief system or religion. And even science is actually a belief system, and I know that this might trigger many people, maybe even some speakers and people in the audience. What we must realize is that science is always creating theories and it's testing them. Good science is always evolving. But what has happened in our modern mainstream culture is that it's not evolving, and dogma has come into science. And if you question science and you say, maybe it's not like that, they will shoot you down, that's it. And it's very similar. It's almost a fanaticism that you find in religion. And I want you to know that I don't have allegiance to any belief system. And that's what people find strange about me. They cannot place me in any category. I'm not defined by all these different labels and categories. I love science. I love spirituality. I have respect for people who have religion. What we must realize is that all modalities, all pathways are valuable, are valid, and we are being encouraged to unite all of them together. So anyone can actually access and channel these frequencies. And it can be viewed as an ascension and frequency tool. It's an indication that we are moving into the fifth dimension. It defies all laws, conditioning that humans are used to. Analysis, intellect, linear, evidence-based thinking will not help you understand what light language is. You are encouraged to use another tool of consciousness. There's not just one, there is many tools. So you speak light language by connecting with your higher self or your team of guides. There's many different ways to do it. But it will sound like just gibberish, like something crazy, if you listen with your mind and your intellect. It's a universal language, like mathematics or music. It transcends language barriers and is non-denominational, does not belong to any belief system. Some actually say that it's activating our DNA and that less than 10% of our DNA is functional and that the rest is called junk DNA. Light language is really connected with the divine feminine principle, the divine goddess that is returning to Gaia. It's about being receptive and about being led by our intuition. Another thing about light language is because it is expressed through sound. Well, that's one modality. Earlier I mentioned it can be expressed as sound, as visual, it can be written, it can be sung. There's many expressions of it. Because remember, we live in an infinite universe. The universe has infinite organizing power. There is one source, but there are infinite expressions of that one source. It's something for all of us to remember. Sometimes we think that something has to be just one way. No. Why does it? Look at our world. It's so abundant and infinite. Look at all the expressions of life, right? This is showing us that there's many expressions of this one source. Light language is one expression of many. And it's valuable, it's valid. It's not something to be dismissed because it does not conform to evidence-based principles. So it's important to remember that the spoken word, the voice, is sacred and it's a very powerful technology. When we are criticizing ourselves or others, for instance, it can move us out of alignment and it can drain our energy. In Qigong, we were always encouraged to be very mindful about what we said and how we said it, because they are super aware of where we receive our energy from and where we are depleting our energy. They even told us that we lose a lot of energy by sight, through sight. You will know this yourself. Maybe you are going out and you are looking around and it's quite overwhelming. You can be losing a lot of life force energy. That's why sometimes we close our eyes to move inside, to rest in the heart, to create space for stillness to arise. Is light language a bridge towards telepathy? Many people believe so. I believe that light language is the next phase of telepathy for humanity. There is a lot of misunderstanding with telepathy. It's actually an exchange, a transmission of feelings, not thoughts as such. You receive feelings, and your brain interprets those feelings and impressions into words. Telepathy is a preferred means of contact with these star beings. The evidence-based community is sometimes looking in the wrong places. We need to open our definitions. Yes, we need evidence, absolutely. But we also need to incorporate subjective experience and the collective experience of others. As I will show you in the presentation, it's not just me who is having these light language openings. There's many people around the world, and I will show you some of their artwork also. Another thing to remember is that many animals are already communicating telepathically. Their inner world is far more advanced than the human, who think they are the most intelligent, remember? As I said earlier, we must reassess what we perceive to be intelligent. We are creating huge cities full of so many lonely, disconnected people. People feel there is something missing in their life. They feel isolated and alone. They might feel like they don't have friends that they can confide in. More and more people I spoke to said that they feel isolated, being surrounded by so many people, but at the same time alone. When we look at some of the indigenous cultures, they are living with true intelligence, with harmony, for Gaia, for the Mother. They recognize the earth as a living being, not a machine. We are moving into an era where new forms of communication are emerging. We are being encouraged to be open-minded to that. So why is light language actually returning now? And before I continue, how many people in the audience are having or feel like they're having light language channeling or activation? Can I just see any hands? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So more and more people worldwide are receiving light language activations due to this global shift in consciousness. This is another drawing that I did. I'm sure you can all recognize the being on the left, Anubis, the god of death in Egyptian culture. He's often coming, images of him are coming to me when I am working with the plant medicines. So when you are channeling light language, you are raising your frequency. Your frequency and feelings are affecting the transmissions. I have many transmissions that I have recorded. And I noticed that some of them sound different according to what mood I was in that day. The language of light is serving to shift people into their intuitive feeling, heart-based awareness, and out of their mind. And Christ consciousness is returning or has returned to Gaia. So light language is a reflection of this high frequency, which has been prophesied amongst multiple cultures all around the world. This whole process, it's a steady process over a series of initiations and events, rather than one single event. When we are in denial of our star families, as many humans are, we deny our very existence. because we are also intimately connected with our star families. You can even say that we are all hybrids, a mixture of many different galactic races. This image on the right is a drawing that I did. I had an out-of-body experience with an extraterrestrial or starship. The surface of the ship looked like the texture and color of the pearl. That's the closest thing I could find at the top, that image to represent. So if you can imagine this writing on top of the craft. At first, the ship was just moving like this, zoom, like, very slow. Then it come to the front like that. And that's when I see this language. I did not get it 100% perfect, but I have a good visual photographic memory. I always forget people's names, but I never forget a face, ever. Because I was trained as a graphic designer and artist, and we had to look for details when I was doing my work. So I'm very aware visually. So as it was approaching, I noticed the writing on it would light up, and then it would disappear, and then it would light up, and then disappear. Maybe this could be called encounters of the sixth kind. I know we talk about many different encounters, but people don't talk so much about telepathic communication. They dismiss it very quickly. Or astral travel. These beings prefer these means of contacting you because they have to really reduce their frequency if they are going to appear to you in this physical dimension. Many of you are already having experiences with them in the dreamscape, which they use to see how ready you are for more contact.
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Or 15.
And no questions.
No questions.
15, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, let's get a move on. So I wanted to show some images of Ojuelos. Am I saying it correct? Ojuelos? Ojuelos, yes, Ojuelos. Mexican ET artifacts that I came across when I went to a conference in California called Contact in the Desert. These artifacts are very fascinating. Daniel also spoke about them in his talk. Many of them have depictions of ET faces. And they have an unusual writing on them, which you could call light language, galactic language, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes when I have been working with the medicine or meditating, it's important for me to let you know that I don't just sit around taking medicine all day. In fact, I don't do that many ceremonies. I was told that I need to make sure that I am concentrating on my meditation practice and not to rely on the medicine for, my guidance or whatever. So that's what I have been doing. So sometimes when I'm meditating, sometimes when I go to sleep at night, it happened last night actually, whilst I was here, I start to see things like this. I start to see visual codes, I receive downloads, my body starts vibrating, and sometimes it's these higher density beings who are sending these frequencies to me. And you can see another artifact here with unusual writing. This one I'm actually wearing here. So, as Daniel said, they are between 8 to 14,000 years. It's very interesting with this image because this triangle, I have seen this triangle in my meditation and this writing, and I've seen it in ceremonies. That is the back of the pendant, and it looks like some kind of star being with some kind of craft or something. I am still piecing together the puzzle. I do not have all the answers, but I believe that it's important for all of us who are receiving these activations to begin to share, even though it might feel frightening, or even though you think people might laugh at you or something like that. We really need to have all the different pieces of the puzzle to create the picture, the full picture. So my first experience with light language was actually through an out-of-body experience. My energy body left my physical body. Sometimes there is a misunderstanding that your soul is leaving your body. Your soul cannot leave your body because your soul is outside of time and space itself. It's just realizing that we are made of multiple bodies. This is our densest one, and we have more finer vibrating bodies that we use to travel the universe with. I actually met a man called Michael who happened to be channeling light language. I wonder if Brother Michael, are you here? Yes, stand up, there you are. And it's funny because, just quickly going back to when I first had my out-of-body experience with the light language, there was an entity that was chasing me, and it was like a vampire entity trying to suck my energy. I was moving away from it, flying away from it, then suddenly something inside of me said, no, Honovi, turn around, face your fear. So I hold out my hand, and I start to speak this language. Ayo mayenata kaso I eyo hana yenato. Something along those lines. And suddenly this being is dropping to the ground, And then I start to communicate with the insects, the beings on this plane. I ask them for their help, and they start to crawl all over this being. Needless to say, this being never bothered me again. I wanted to let this being know that its actions have consequences. Although I believe very much in love and forgiveness, I also believe in holding people to accountability, letting people know that their actions have a consequence. Otherwise, they will not learn. So Michael invited me to a crop circle exhibition, and he started channeling, and I was blown away. I was like, what is that language? My spirit started to really move inside of me, like it was recognizing something ancient. I was invited to an Ayahuasca ceremony. Sometimes the medicine finds you instead of you going to find it. My friend rang me one day before the ceremony. He said, we have been invited to a ceremony. I'm like, okay, awesome. When? He's like, tomorrow. I'm like, what? Tomorrow? He's like, yeah, but don't worry about it. You're ready, Just feel in your heart and you will be fine. So I said, okay. I went into my center. I asked myself, am I ready? And the answer was yes, you are ready. Go. So I went, and that's when I received a very big light language activation. I was actually asked to leave the circle in this ceremony because I started to channel these beings. They said, we are from Sirius. We are returning. The hybrid children are coming. Of course, everyone was very shocked, including me. I never had any idea that I was connected with beings from Sirius. I actually thought I was connected with beings from Pleiades or some other star system. These guides actually told me to attend an event in the Czech Republic by the channel Bashar, which some of you will know. And they told me my name would be picked from the bowl. You had to write your name down and put it in a bowl if you wanted to ask him a question. And they told me when that would happen, they said, your name will be called and you are to share the light language with your brother and sister. And I said, I'm not doing that. You're crazy. That no way. but that's actually what happened. It's a true story. It all came true. They picked my name, and the rest is history. So I'll try and be quick with some of this. This is some examples of light language from different people all around the world. The person on the left is my partner, Roberto Arroyo. He is Mexican. We have Guilherme Bastos from Portugal. Yvonne Perry from Tennessee, US, and she has a website here, www.weareoneinspirit.com. So it's not just a phenomenon belonging to me or some other person. It's happening all around the world. So I will skip some of this. Many people are feeling afraid to share because they see this language as being unusual and taboo, and the people won't believe them, and people will think they're crazy and all that kind of stuff. And the guidance that I've got is just to really share from your heart, regardless of the fear that you feel. Because as you can see, those pictures I showed you, it's not just you that is receiving these activations. Many people are. And we are being called to share them because they're going to help raise the frequency collectively as a society. These are more examples. The one on the right is actually by the organizer, the beautiful one and only Ellie. On the left is my friend Tatiana. She's from Greece. On the bottom left is me. That's one of my transmissions. And these beings told me it was concerning unity consciousness. They're saying that unity consciousness is returning to the planet. So the star beings, in a real sense, they are hijacking consciousness, if you had not already noticed. People who are meditators, people who work with the plant medicine, anything that is expanding your consciousness, many people are having experiences with these beings. On the whole, they want to help humanity, but of course there are ones that don't have our best interest at heart. So we really have to, use our discernment about which ones are for us and which ones are not. So disclosure is beginning with ourselves first. We need to disclose to ourselves who and what we are, really get to know ourselves, and then disclose that to other people. When we do that, we will start to see disclosure on a mass scale. They're waiting to see how ready we are. They use dreams to see how ready you are for more experiences. One of the things I always say is experience and explore, or be a slave to other people's opinions. We must realize that each of us is unique, and we all have different things that resonate with us. We can read things in a book, and that's fine and great. But it's important to actually have our own experiences, to research, to find the tools, to have these experiences, to connect with these beings in a way that resonates with us most. This is an image of the recent eclipse crop circle, and you can see that it looks like some kind of maybe, potentially, just one idea, it could be some kind of light language, some galactic language. So just to run through this quickly, they contacted me first in 2010. The way I speak has actually changed as a result of these beings being in contact with me. Anyone who knew me before 2016 will know that I was speaking in a different way. Some people have been a little bit shocked by it, but it makes a lot of sense. If these beings are from a very high density, we are talking about beings who come from 9th through to 12th dimensional densities. When I am in contact with them, I find it sometimes challenging to adjust to their frequency. Sometimes I'm laughing because they're full of so much love. It's quite funny. Their focus is on universal love, forgiveness, unity consciousness, intuition, empathy. They speak about the hybrid children returning. The main message they always give me is the hybrid children are coming. They are wanting us to raise the divine feminine on earth. They are not concerned with details. They call themselves the guardians, the creators, or the ancient ones. In particular, they are encouraging women to step forward, and also people from different nationalities, so that we can have more representation. So the message for humans is to open their heart. And they also are considering words to be a denser, a lower frequency. But it's important to realize that this doesn't mean that that's bad, you know. It's just a different vibration. They don't want us to put them on a pedestal and worship them as gods. They want us to know that they really honor and respect beings who incarnate into this physical dimension, because it's seen as a dimension that's very challenging. And they say that only the brave spirits choose to incarnate. So that was the message that I first received. We are from Sirius. We are returning. The hybrid children are coming. This is a light language transmission that I did. It's important to remember that we can always find the supporting evidence for whatever we believe in, no matter what. Whether we believe in science, religion, spirituality, we will always find the evidence for that. And so it's important to be inclusive and to take a step back from our beliefs and allow something new to come forward. These are more images of the light languages returning, and this is by my friend Jenny Jones. You can check her website there. Very beautiful creations. You can see the divine feminine image there. This was a diagram that I made myself of a multidimensional model of reality. I don't really have so much time to go through that right now. You can, maybe if you are interested, you can speak with me about that later. So our destiny is to birth our luminous self as multidimensional universal beings. This is some more artwork from my friend Michael. He's from Switzerland. He is receiving the light language transmissions. This is very beautiful artwork here. So we are coming to the end of the presentation here. And it's important to know that we are also being encouraged to embrace the shadow, not just, running towards the light. What happens when you are just only exposed to the light? If you are just sitting in the sun all day, what happens? Yes, right? Exactly. And what happens when you go and sit in the shade? You receive, cooling effect. So these beings are saying that we need to embrace the shadow as a stepping stone towards embodiment and greater compassion for others. And the shadow is a dimension of yourself that you have disowned, you have judged, or you have labeled it as bad, wrong, or disgusting in yourself and in others. But ancient cultures have a very different relationship with the darkness. They see the darkness as the womb of all creation. When we are embracing those things that we strongly dislike in others, we can create greater compassion for ourselves, greater understanding. It doesn't mean we don't hold people to account. We do that. It's important. It's very important. We don't just walk around saying, yeah, all is forgiven, and then some people start doing some crazy stuff. No. We love people. We hold them to account, but we don't close our heart to them. So we are being encouraged not only to go towards the light, but also to feel the darkness, to embrace it. And lastly, here is just some stepping stones to raise consciousness. Know what's most in resonance with you and not with other people. Don't focus on what's good for others, because it's going to be different for all of you. Live from vision and intention, and not just flow. A lot of people say, oh, let's go with the flow, right? But if you go with the flow, you don't necessarily know where the flow is going to take you. Could take you to, Timbuktu or wherever, I don't know. You want to be in your boat and you want to be paddling. You want to have intention. You want to have a structure and know what direction you are going towards. Create supportive structures to harness these incoming energies. Do shadow work, embrace the shadow as well as the light. forgive yourself daily. Act on your resonance in bold ways. And view everything as an opportunity for expansion, because that's what it is. This is actually one of my guides that my friend, who is an artist, channeled. She's very talented. You can visit her website and you can read about this channeling if you are interested. And these are mediums in which you can connect with me. I love to hear from people, to hear their experiences. I'm working on some exciting projects. So it would be really good to share that with you if anyone is interested. I have all the social media, and I have recordings of light language on SoundCloud, and I started to upload them on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much from my heart for listening to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a good news. We have time a few questions, okay?
Okay. Sure, great.
3, concretamente. Abrimos luces para que pueda haber manos, por favor. Gracias. Adelante, caballero.
Well, this is not actually a question. It's a suggestion. You told me that you would play your drum.
Sorry, I cannot hear you very well.
Yeah, you told me before that you would play your drum and make us a demonstration. Could you, please?
Yeah. Yes, I could do that.
Thanks.
Why not? Spirit of the deer. Okay. Just me and the stars. We'll always be together. Aya no kai yo ama. Ah ho ho ho. Just me and the stars. You'll always be in my heart. Enayo daisiyo. Return of the bird stripes. Yano ku hasaya no payani. Amaye nato. Yu asaka shuhayima. Thank you.
Thank you, Honovi. One more questions? No. Ahora.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for your amazing speech, and
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, how can one facilitate speaking in tongues? Do you recommend any practices or techniques?
You know, there's many different ways. The first is to set the intention, that you want, that's what you want to come into your reality. And then it's very simple. You are following those things that are most passionate, inspiring, and in resonance for you. As you are doing that, you are increasing your vibration, your frequency, because everyone can speak these different galactic languages, this light language. But the first who will receive them are the star seeds, the souls that have connection to these extraterrestrial star beings. So I believe there's probably many people in this audience who do have that connection. In fact, my brother, who is sitting over there, you can say hello. He is also channeling verbally this light language, So it's important to know that it's not something that is rare. It can be accessed. If you are doing things like working with the plant medicines or meditation, things that will raise your vibration, it can increase the chances of you to receive this language. But it's also knowing that it might not be in your destiny to receive it also, and making peace with that too. Yes. Thank you.
More questions? No?
Yes.
Here. Please. Wait, please.
I heard that there's an ayahuasca in Peru for women's retreat in late November. Are you a part of that?
No, but maybe we can talk about that. Yes.
Okay, because I wanted to go.
Okay, wonderful. There's a gentleman
allí
over
atrás.
here. There are some things that you can do. So, for instance, when you are astral traveling or out of your body, you are a lot of the time in what we call consensus environments. The Earth is a consensus environment, meaning it's held together by the belief systems of billions of people. And that's all it is, That's something for us to remember, that we have created agreements with each other on this earth. But we can create new agreements with each other. In fact, that's what we are being encouraged to do. When you are lucid dreaming, it's normally not within consensus environments. So you can do a reality check in a lucid dream. Like you can say, wall turn blue now. And the wall will turn blue. And you will know that you are in a lucid dream. You try and do that in a consensus environment whilst you are astral traveling, like, water turn into $100 or something. It won't happen. Because in that environment, people have made certain agreements with each other. That's the difference. But with that said, sometimes there is a crossover, and it's literally very difficult to tell whether you are in a lucid dream, astral projecting, and it puts into question what reality is. What is reality? Because aren't we dreaming right now?
The last one, please.
Thank you for a nice presentation. I have a question. You told that you are saying what you feel when you are talking to the being, and it was going away. So you are just expressing what you truly feel?
Are you talking about the being that was chasing after me?
I'm basically talking about light language because it's interesting for me. I used to just talk what I'm feeling like.
Yes.
It's not that I'm like talking a normal language. It's like no one understands me, but I do, and it's just I can't describe what I'm saying, but it comes from the heart. So it's just emotions, and I wanted first to ask if that is light language, because I'm not sure about that.
Is it some different sounds that are coming out when you are expressing?
It's like different words coming out.
Yes, it sounds like it. Yes, it sounds like it. Yes.
And I have a second question.
Mm-hmm.
And this question is about sometimes when I look at the sun,
yes,
I see some symbols.
Yes.
And it's always when I look into the light. When I close my eyes, it's like looking around and seeing this symbol.
Right.
But only when I look in the light. It's funny.
Yes. Well, light carries a lot of information. And the sun itself is a conscious, aware being. So it would make sense that you are looking at the sun and you are receiving all kinds of symbols. And, from some of the other speakers, what they have been talking about, how there is all this activity in the sun and that is heading towards the planet and it is assisting in our ascension, then it makes perfect sense that certain codes and frequencies are coming through. And it would be a good idea, maybe, just as a suggestion, to begin to actually write them down and to share them also.
Okay, thank you very much.
You are welcome.
I will do that.
Un aplauso para Honovi.
Thank you. Thank you so much.